και κύριοι, χαίρετε. Το 12ο ετήσιο βραβείο κινηματογράφου του Ευρωπαϊκού Κοινοβουλίου Lux απονεμήθηκε και φέτος σε ειδική τελετή που πραγματοποιήθηκε κατά τη Σύνοδο του Νοεμβρίου στην αίθουσα της Ολομέλειας στο Στρασβούργο από τον πρόεδρο του Ευρωπαϊκού Κοινοβουλίου, Αντώνιο Ταγιάννη. Η ταινία «Γυναίκα σε πόλεμο» του Ισλανδού σκηνοθέτη Benedikt Erlingsson έλαβε το βραβείο Lux 2018 για τον Ευρωπαϊκό Κινηματογράφο.
Oggi il Parlamento europeo assegna il 12° premio Lux e sono particolarmente orgoglioso di questa nostra competizione cinematografica che dal 2007 è dedicata a film di produzione europea e incentrati su temi fondamentali per la nostra Unione. I film finalisti affrontano 3 problemi chiave per il futuro della nostra Europa. I rischi legati ai nazionalismi, l'urgenza di agire per preservare il nostro pianeta, la necessità di trovare risposte coerenti alla questione migratoria. E ora vediamo chi ha vinto, chi hanno scelto i parlamentari attraverso il loro libero voto come primus inter pares, les premiers parmi les gagnants. The winner is Woman at War, Benedikt Erlingsson.
I feel really honored to be here in the temple of the power. I feel like a politician, and I believe you politicians are also storytellers. You are always fighting about the narrative. You're always fighting about the narrative of the first act, where we are coming from, and the narrative of the second act, what we should do, because you're all aiming for the happy end in the third act. So in that sense, you are comedians, because you are aiming for a happy end. But I have to take up the challenge of the character of my film, Halla, that is an activist, and she would want me to say something about, with you, the political elite of Europe, because I find me here in this platform. I want to say to you, you are a very brave people, politicians. You are very brave because you have taken up the challenge to fight against the climate change. That will be the alpha and omega of all politics in the future. So. And you are very brave, maybe more brave than you think, because very soon you have to say to your voters, vote for me, and I will make sure you will get less of everything. Good luck with that. So I just want to say, like we say in Iceland, namaste. 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 Thank you.
Το βραβείο Lux απονέμεται κάθε χρόνο από Κριτική Επιτροπή Βουλευτών του Ευρωπαϊκού Κοινοβουλίου και θεσπίστηκε το 2007 με στόχο την προώθηση του ευρωπαϊκού κινηματογράφου μέσα από την ποικιλομορφία του και την ενθάρρυνση της συζήτησης για αξίες και κοινωνικά θέματα σε όλη την Ευρώπη. Κατά την παραμονή μας στο Ευρωπαϊκό Κοινοβούλιο στο Στρασβούργο, είχαμε την ευκαιρία να συνομιλήσουμε και με τους 3 φιναλίστ. Αξίζει να σημειωθεί ότι οι 3 ταινίες που διαγωνίστηκαν φέτος απεικονίζουν ισχυρούς γυναικείους χαρακτήρες που αντιμετωπίζουν δύσκολες επιλογές ζωής ενώ πραγματεύονται ζητήματα όπως η μετανάστευση, ο εθνικισμός και το περιβάλλον. Οι δημιουργοί των ταινιών μας μίλησαν τόσο για το περιεχόμενο των ταινιών τους, όσο και για την πηγή έμπνευσής τους. Η ταινία «Γυναίκα σε πόλεμο» από τον Ισλανδό σκηνοθέτη Benedikt Erlingsson είναι ένα χαρούμενο, εφευρετικό, ενεργητικό και φεμινιστικό έπος μιας γυναίκας που είναι δασκάλα μουσικής και ζει μια διπλή ζωή ως παθιασμένη ακτιβίστρια για το περιβάλλον. Όταν αρχίζει να σχεδιάζει μια πιο τολμηρή επιχείρηση, ανακαλύπτει ότι το αίτημά της να υιοθετήσει ένα παιδί έχει τελικά γίνει αποδεκτό και ότι ένα κοριτσάκι την περιμένει στην Ουκρανία. You're the director of Woman at War. What's the story of your film?
Woman at War is kind of an Artemis, like the goddess that is savior and protector of the wild and the untouched nature. So she is a one-woman Red Brigade or Green Army. She is a sabotagist that attacks the multinational companies in her country that are melting aluminium and damaging the highlands with her hydro dams. She is both fighting for preserving innocent and untouched land, but also fighting against climate changes in that sense. So she has a very big mission. So you can call her also, she is yes, and then she has more complicated issues. She suddenly discovered that she has to adopt a child. And so the question is raised, how do I save the world? Do I save the world by saving one child? And by that I save the world? And then, or do I save the world by changing myself, you know?
Guðmundur, stúlka.
Allavega mappan með öllum upplýsingum frá úkraínska heimilinu.
Frábært! Þú ert að verða mamma. Það var allt eitthvað flókið núna. Nú ert þú mamman og þú lætur ekkert stoppa þig.
That's the Buddhist way, you know, you change yourself and by that you change it, or you save the world by actions, by activism, like Mandela and Gandhi, you know, they were also sabotagists using economical sabotage.
Hvað var þyrlan að gera þarna? Þú ert búin að ná þínu fram. Hann með rafstöðvar. Við verðum að klára planið. Sko, núna ertu með athygli heimsins. Núna verður að senda frá þér yfirlýsingu.
Do you discuss about the climate change in your country?
There's a constant fight about environment in Iceland. It has been last 50 years. From the big industry that is very much interested to make dams, to make hydropower, to sell very cheap to the multinationals, and the forces that want to protect, because Icelandic highlands are the biggest untouched area of Europe today. So, and it's a church, it's a holy place, and it's a place of worship. It's our Agropolis, you know. And so we are very warm about it. That is another issue. But then we have also this immediate threat, the climate changes.
Skemmdarkóngur okkar sem valda hlýnun andrúmslofts og súrnun sjávar í raun glæpur gegn mannkyninu og öllu lífi á jörðinni.
Multinationals and the aluminium industry is really a symbol of this waste capitalism that is bringing us back to the Stone Age. Yes. And we have to react, and we are the last generation to do that for our children.
You are an activist as well?
I was an activist, yes. I did some little bit of activist as a teenager. Chained myself to a whaleboat, and you know. Yeah. So it was a good education.
You are familiar with Greek ancient theater and Greek mythology?
No, I come from theater, so you know, in theater we have to learn our basics, and they sometimes
These
start.
are the basics.
The basic, well, Aristophanes, because sometimes they say to me, your film is comical, and it's a serious issues, and I say yes. What about Aristophanes? You know, he's a very serious playwright. He's really doing serious stuff. You know, imagine Lysistrata, women organizing sexual strike to press patriarchy into peace. This is really metaphysical stuff. You know, and yet it's done with lightness and humor and so on. So it's a good example of how dangerous sort the comedy can be, and you can go to, you know, Molière, or you can go to. You know, whatever, you know.
Þannig það lítil stúlka í Úkraínu.
Og þetta þýðir ekki bara það að samningaviðræður við Kínverjana eru aftur komnar á fullt, heldur einnig stefnt á stækkun á Ríó Tinto Straumsvík.
97 centimetrar og 22 kíló.
How did you decide to link Iceland with Ukraine?
Yeah,
why did you choose?
For Icelandic perspective, Ukraine is a faraway country. So she is adopting a child from a faraway country. But it's also a country that is very heavy industrialized, and it's also a country in a war.
Yes.
And so it's a symbol of many things. And then it happens they have this beautiful song tradition, like in Bulgaria and around the Black Sea, this Diabolos in Musica. So there were a lot of things that came together there.
Is there a symbolism of a link between South and North?
Yeah. And also the story goes because we are all in this together. You know, the climate changes are not only hitting Iceland, they're also hitting Ukraine and Greece and so on. And they will become the issue of all issues. And in the future, all politics are about reacting or adjusting to climate changes.
How is film industry in your country?
It's producing 5 to 7 feature film every year, plus documentaries and short films and so on. They are, you know, very playing in the circus of the festivals.
Yes.
So we have a small industry, but very ambitious one.
Are you optimistic about the future of European film industry?
Yeah, well, after the new directive that was agreed here in the Parliament, but now it's in another phase, you know, where there is really an effort to try to protect the interest of the audiovisual artists, that we will get something to us, because we are bleeding out. Creative branch of Europe is bleeding out because of the digital revolution.
Yes.
And maybe in Germany and France, because they are maybe a better position because their governments are doing something active about illegal download. But in other countries, we are bleeding out. We are not getting. So this is really a crossroads in the artist life. You know, it's like before or after. You know, we sometimes say we started. You know, Aristophanes, he was very privileged because he did not have to sell theater tickets. It was just the communa they bought. It was a festival. But then we had the hat. You know, I have even. You know, that's the instrument of storytellers and show business people for many hundred years. It's like that. You know. And then we discovered the theater ticket, when you can control the access to an in-yard or something, you know, and you could say, theater ticket. And now we have been, you know, selling on concerts and theater and so on. But now visual artists, you know, in audiovisual media, they are like back with the hat. Yes. You know, they are like, how are you going to monetize my films? Open a shop on the internet, and then you give your films, and then you can sell them T-shirts.
There's a lack of funding.
No, it's not a lot of funding. We are not asking about funding. We are just asking about our share of the product, that they don't not been stolen by us. Yes. Because our film can be sold by other people that are not paying their share to us. This is the power and the destructive force of the digital revolution for us that are in this field.
Η ταινία «Η άλλη όψη της ιστορίας» από τη σκηνοθέτηδα Μίλα του Ράιλιτς είναι ένα ντοκιμαντέρ το οποίο αντιμετωπίζει την ιστορία ολόκληρης της χώρας και της κοινωνίας στον αγώνα κατά του εθνικισμού και στον αγώνα για την υπεράσπιση της δημοκρατίας. Το χρονικό μιας οικογένειας στη Σερβία μετατρέπεται σε ένα πορτρέτο ενός ακτιβιστή σε περιόδους μεγάλης αναταραχής, αμφισβητώντας την ευθύνη κάθε γενιάς να αγωνιστεί για το μέλλον της. So Mila, you are Serbian and you are the director of the film The Other Side of Everything. What's the story of your film, and why did you choose this title?
The Other Side of Everything tells the story of a door in our family apartment in Belgrade that's been locked for 70 years.
70?
70. And so during this period of 70 years, the apartment was a divided space. And I thought it would be a really interesting way to try and tell the story of everything that we lived in Serbia over that period of time. And so it never leaves the apartment. The whole film takes place inside this space, and through the windows you see a political life in Serbia today, and you get a feeling for this idea of a small family story being used to tell the large history of the country.
So you have the war period as well included.
Yeah, so the film obviously starts in the period of communism after the Second World War, which is the moment when the doors in the apartment were locked. But the main focus of the film is really the period of the 90s, when Yugoslavia broke apart and when we had a civil war, and when in Serbia we had this resistance movement against Milosevic, which ended in 2000 with this democratic revolution, as we call it. And the main character of the film is my mother, who tells us the history of this space, but much more importantly was somebody who was very involved and active in the resistance movement against Milosevic for this whole period. And then after the revolution ended up being in the government, the first democratic government after. And so through her story, I try and tell something about how history and politics have shaped our lives, which is something very characteristic for the Balkans, I think.
So what inspired you was your own memories? Stories that you were hearing about things that were happening in your country when you were a small child and you couldn't explain the things that were happening around you? It
has to do with the fact that I never felt that the story of how we had lived through the 90s in Serbia had been told, because there is a story of resistance, there is a story of an opposition that managed to organize and then after it took power became very disappointed by what it could achieve. So there was definitely a feeling that this is a story that hadn't been told. But on a more universal level, I think the reason I needed to make this film is that I'm one of a generation that is debating always whether to leave the country or to stay. Yes. And so, in front of me I have someone like my mother who chose very clearly to stay, but not only to stay, but also to speak up and to become an activist and to say and to fight. And so it was really about that moment in your life when you become an adult and you have to make this decision. Do I leave or do I stay? And if I stay, do I speak up and fight, or do I switch off and pretend it doesn't concern me? And so that's really the heart of the film.
If you listen, you can hear them speaking through the doors and the wall, spying. There was reason to be afraid, and people were taken away at that time. This is one apartment divided in two by communists, because we were on the wrong side of history. That was the most terrible experience. To realize the country is going in a wrong direction. There is nothing you can do. You kind of try to protest, but you are minority. Nobody really helped us.
What does activism mean in your life, and what is the message that you want to send to your generation?
So activism in my life is something that I watched my mother do, and I admire her enormously for doing it, but it's not something I feel capable of doing myself.
Yes.
And so there is a moment in the film where my mother, I'm asking her, but why? Why did you do this? Isn't it a waste of time? Did you achieve anything?
Yes.
And there's a moment in the film where she looks at me and she says, I'm too old now, and it's you who has to start making speeches. And I say, but I can't, And so I think...
So she gives you the lead.
She does give me the lead,
continue.
yeah. There's a real moment when she turns the table. The problem is you see very clearly in the film that I don't feel that this is something that I have in me, the capability to do this. And so I don't know if the film has a message, but it definitely has a moment where when she's looking at me, a lot of young people say, I feel like she's looking at me. And she's making all of us very uncomfortable in front of this question of what will you do? Really, what will you do today when you see things going so badly in your country? Will you play some kind of role in trying to fix that? And if there's anything that I want the film to do, it's I want to make it I hope it makes people feel as uncomfortable in front of this question.
It seems that I spent my whole life waiting for this door to open. Actually, more and more they were closing, We were sitting in this apartment kind of isolated, watching what was going in the outside world through the windows.
Do you feel that film can mobilize citizens? Make them sensitive in several matters.
In a very funny way, my answer to that question has changed since I made the film. So when I was making the film, it was really about saying, politics is not my path, and politics is not my language, and I want to make films. But when the film came out, the kind of conversation that the film opened...
was political.
It was very political.
Yes.
And all of a sudden...
Because politics is everywhere.
It is. And all of a sudden I began to realize, it's just actually a different language, but it's raising the exact same questions, And so today, with a film that has arrived to the European Parliament, I can only say, of course, it has power to change, because we're here with the film.
How is the film industry in your country?
In Serbia, obviously, with a country that's so politically turbulent, it's been up and down. We are in a very good period right now because the government has shown commitment to funding cinema, and we have a very well set up system for financing films, and a lot of young authors are profiting from this possibility. So there's a really talk of like a new wave in Serbia of like young people who have important things to say and now have been given the support to do it.
And how do you see the evolution of film industry in Europe in general?
I feel like Europe is finding its voice in a very interesting way, because we have become one space in terms of the dialogues that we're having, and I feel like the films that are really reaching many different audiences in Europe are films that are speaking to universal problems in Europe, and so I kind of feel like it's finding its place in a way that's very exciting to be part of.
I am the only one left alive who saw this door closed, and maybe I will live long enough to see it open one day.
Η ταινία Sticks από τον σκηνοθέτη Wolfgang Fischer μοιάζει αρχικά να είναι ένα ντοκιμαντέρ. Στην πραγματικότητα όμως είναι μια αλληγορία για το προσφυγικό. Η πρωταγωνίστρια ξεκινάει τις διακοπές των ονείρων της με ένα ιστιοφόρο στον Ατλαντικό. Μετά όμως από μια καταιγίδα βρίσκεται κοντά σε ένα εγκαταλελειμμένο σκάφος γεμάτο με ανθρώπους που χρειάζονται απεγνωσμένα βοήθεια. Αν και η ακτοφυλακή της στέλνει οδηγίες να παραμείνει μακριά επειδή το σκάφος της δεν είναι κατάλληλο εξοπλισμένο για να βοηθήσει, αυτή η στάση έρχεται σε αντίθεση με την αίσθηση της κοινωνικής της ευθύνης. Mr. Fischer,
hello.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You are the director of Sticks.
Yes.
What does this word mean?
So Styx comes from the Greek mythology. It's the river of death. It divides the region from the living and the dead ones. And for us, it was the perfect title for telling this story because we are living in these parallel worlds. And these worlds are divided by the ocean at the European borders. And for that reason, we wanted to use the title of Styx.
Is this a documentary that you have, or a film?
It's a feature film. It looks like a documentary, maybe, but everything you've seen or you can see in the movie, it's written in the script. It's a feature film, and it's about a woman, a solo sailor woman. She wants to go to an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and she's well trained, she's skilled, she has got security systems she can rely on, and after a storm she finds herself near a boat with 100 people on board, and this boat is going to sink, and she's alone. What can she do? And that's what we wanted to raise, this question. What can you do in this situation?
What is your message?
My message is to raise questions, and it's not a real message, it's to ask the question, who are we, who do we want to be, who do we have to be in the world we are living right now, and what does it mean to live in this world we have to face right now, and the problems, and that was the theme, and especially to share a very profound emotional experience with the audience. What does it mean to be in the place of our main actress? What kind of choices do we have, and what kind of decision can we make?
Does it have to do with the refugee crisis or not?
On the one hand, it was to raise the question and ask ourselves, who are we? And on the other side, making sticks was for us important to deal with the topic of migration, because that's the theme which will follow us the next decades. We have to find a solution, and that was the aim, to tell a story about migration. And it's about a person going from north to south, one is going from south to north, and they meet in a very hostile area.
German, listen.
Asa Gray, I repeat, stay away.
So the values of solidarity are strong in the film?
I hope so.
And they are at risk in the European Union, where we live and where we are now.
I mean,
in the
it's
European
weird
Parliament.
how we deal with the topic of migration and how we deal with what's going on in the ocean around us. And we started to write the script 9 years ago, and if we follow,
9 years ago.
If we follow what happens now, nothing has changed. It's got even worse, and there are no ships of NGOs out in the ocean in order to save people.
Yes.
And that changed completely. And I think, or I raised the question, is this the attitude we can share in the 21st century?
Are you familiar with the refugee crisis in Greece and the way that Greeks have took the burden of the migration issue?
Yeah, sure, and that's the reason also how we set up the story. We show one person who tries to solve the problem, but it's too big for one person. That's the reason why we have to stand together. It's not about me, it's about us, and we have to find a solution for this horrible topic.
The film is going to be released in Greece soon?
Yeah, I don't know when it is released. I don't have the dates from the distributor, but it will be released. It was at the Thessaloniki Film Festival now, but I don't know about the release. I'm sorry.
Why did you choose a woman for the principal role of the character?
Yeah, we wanted to make a very modern movie and to show a strong woman. And what does it mean for women to enter this hostile world? And that's the reason it was right from the beginning clear it has to be a strong woman we wanted to show.
Asa Gray, confirm you understand and will obey this instruction.
Confirmed, but I won't leave. Asa Gray out.
Το Ευρωπαϊκό Κοινοβούλιο καθιέρωσε το κινηματογραφικό βραβείο Lux προκειμένου να ενισχύσει την κυκλοφορία ευρωπαϊκών ταινιών στην Ευρώπη και να δώσει έναυσμα για διάλογο σε ευρωπαϊκό επίπεδο πάνω σε σημαντικά κοινωνικά θέματα. Οι 3 ταινίες που διαγωνίστηκαν για το βραβείο Lux προβάλλονται σε 24 γλώσσες και στις 28 χώρες μέλη στο πλαίσιο των κινηματογραφικών ημερών Lux από τον Οκτώβριο έως τον Δεκέμβριο του 2018.